Welcome back in to 90 plus 2 podcast. Sammy St.Jean, Jeremy Striano right there. And we've got a little Champions League football to talk about, something we didn't get to do a ton about back last season, just because we didn't really get the group stages or anything when we were doing the podcast. But now we get to dive deep into a ton of group stage action. We got Europa Conference League and a little bit of a weekend preview. Jeremy, how are we feeling about the upcoming weekend of football and the one we just had?
Uh, man, glad that Champions League is back, right? I said it before on the last episode. This is the tournament of all tournaments in terms of the games of soccer itself. So I'm excited. It was a bit of a strange one. Some interesting results. Some ones that we predicted spot on. Others were like, a little scary for some
My
teams.
surprise result was a disaster.
Yeah, no, right? But again, like my lock hits fine. Um, Union almost pull off a shocker at the Bernabeu, but we'll get into that. But no, it's an exciting time, and then we got the Prem back on the weekend. So hopefully, Man U can find a way to win because they're dying for a win here, and I'm really sick and tired of all the negative media. But I think they'll be okay. I think even though they did lose 4-3, I think this is a big learning place for them.
Yeah, and we'll dive right into the Champions League. Do quickly want to note, congratulations to Julie Ertz, who's making her final start tonight. I didn't want to overlook that at the start of the show. Now, Champions League football, Group A. So we'll kind of jump right into where we picked up there, Jeremy. So we have Galatasaray and Copenhagen, a bit of a surprise 2-2 draw.
That's
Um,
fine. That's fine. I'll take that
but
any day.
and the thing is too is Copenhagen really should have won that match. They were up
They
two
opened up the
nothing.
scoring, yeah.
Yeah, they were up 2-0 until the 86th, and they got pulled one back, and then 88th minute equalizer. Um, yeah, I don't know. This one was a weird match for me. It was I didn't expect as much scoring too. I thought this was going to be a 1-0, maybe 2-0 tops. Like I thought once Copenhagen got up 2-0, I thought that was going to hold, but that one did not. And then of course we had your Reds taking on Bayern Munich, and it was a battle. It was a 4-3
Oh
result for
man.
Bayern. And the two things I want to say on this one from what I saw, you gotta note the Andre Onana blunder. Gotta note that it was unfortunate, but I do want to note that I thought he handled it after the game in a very impressive way.
Oh,
He kind of just he
1000%.
requested to talk to the media and said, "That's my bad. I got to be better." And I everybody's gonna have bad games. Everyone's gonna have bad stretches of games. I think that's the exact way you got to handle it. So I do want to give him some kudos to what was a poor game on his behalf. And then as much as anyone, I love Christian Eriksen, but he's his relevance is fading away in terms of being able to play at the highest level. Um, they again, this has kind of been a story for Manchester United all season. It's the midfield that's been getting overrun a little bit, and I think Eriksen in this one in particular was one of the issues. But Casemiro, he helped offensively, wasn't quite what we'd expect from him defensively. But if you're going to get your DM to put 2 goals in, you take that any day of the week. Certainly want to see him find his footing a little bit as his normal kind of defensive prowess that he's known for. But him bagging 2 goals is something you'll never complain about. So I'll kind of turn this Group A conversation over to you, Jeremy. Where are we at? How are we feeling?
So before I get into Bayern Man U, Galatasaray Copenhagen was a real eye-opening result because when the draw happened, it was pot one comes out and it's Bayern, pot two comes out, it's Man U, right? And then pot three is Copenhagen, the winners of the Danish league, and then Galatasaray comes out in pot four. Immediately, Man U fans on Twitter and social media in general were like, "Oh, you know what? This is a solid second place finish." I think it's going to be a lot harder, especially on these away results. We were talking on the last one about like Man U and Bayern going into Turkey. Like Turkey's a real tough place to play, no matter if you're playing against Galatasaray, Besiktas, or Fenerbahce, right? So I think this is going to be a much difficult group than it was on paper. Yeah, I still think Man U are going to really bounce back from this result as there was some resilience shown at the end of this one, but it's going to be a fight. It's going to be a big fight. I'm expecting a real big fight, especially with Galatasaray. I think Turkey will be harder. I would love to take all 3 points, in both Copenhagen and Galatasaray or in Turkey. But look, they come back with Galatasaray in a couple weeks. I'm glad Casemiro had this resurgence. I don't even know what, like a reawakening, I guess, of his tenure so far at Manchester United. He's not known for scoring goals, but he did score some like impactful goals last year. I remember him scoring a goal away at, I believe it was Goodison Park, and it was a late goal which secured a victory for Man U against a struggling Everton team. But what I saw from him in that goal celebration was like, hell yeah, like I want to be here, and we need a lot of players like that. Um, First of all, congratulations, Rasmus Højlund. He got a goal taken away from him over the weekend. He gets his goal here in his Champions League debut against a Bayern Munich team. I'm very happy for the youngster. I think he's showing some promise. I really do think, and I know the days of playing with two strikers are kind of gone. Like, rarely does anyone play like a flat 4-4-2 anymore. It's mainly, a striker with two wingers on each side. I do think we need a lot more help up top. I think Anthony Martial coming in doesn't really give you that sure, like, okay, let's go find an equalizer. Who are we going to get? Oh, we have Anthony Martial. This is where I want, I really don't know if I can throw out any names right now, but they need help. They need help up top. And then finally, my last point, I love Andre Onana. I know he's conceded over like, I don't even know what the total is. I think that's almost close to like 30 goals or something that he's already conceded in this calendar year in all competitions. I thought he handled it well. I thought you hit the nail on the head there. I'm proud of him. And there were some explicits in his presser. And I won't say it, but he basically said like, yeah, I I messed up, and he owned up to it, and we want that. It's no excuses, and I really hope this team can really rebound because, as we mentioned last week, we have you have a lot of really important results coming up. Two against Crystal Palace, one against Burnley this weekend, who I think they should take for a walk. You know what I'm saying? So I hope they can rebound, and yeah, let's get out of Group A and head over to Group B.
Yeah, I wanted to say not only are they important matches, they're matches and points that United can't waste after the
Oh
slow
God.
start. They
Mm-hmm.
cannot waste those for sure. Obviously, just want to kind of recap the scoring quickly in this match because this is one of those highlight ones that we were really looking forward to. We saw Sane, Nabry, Kane, and Tell get the 4 goals for Bayern, and then Højlund and then Casemiro's double. So just wanted to highlight that there. Yeah, this group is going to be one to watch. I think those away matches are going to be huge for United. But going over to Group B, where I messed up a prediction pretty bad. I was like, dude, I could see a PSV sneaking out a draw against Arsenal. Ooh, was I wrong? Maybe I was just rooting for that a little bit. Yeah, I'm speaking of messing up, I messed up. Yeah, 4-0 Arsenal over PSV. I think I'm yeah. Whew. Good thing we're not doing our fun finish because
The thing we don't
I,
gamble on the show, you know what I mean? Like, thank
I
God
mean
we don't have like a
my
bankroll.
pockets are empty anyways, so it's fine. But one thing that I thought was the most impressive aspect here is who scored for Arsenal. It
Yeah,
was Saka, it was Jesus, it was Trossard, and it was Odegaard. It was the guys you need to score. It's your 3 forwards and your playmaker. So I thought that was very impressive that it was the guys who were involved were the ones that needed to be involved. But I think that's exactly what they need. And I think Nketiah is a great backup option. Like I feel like he is actually a good backup striker. Like
I
he
agree.
does that well. Like he is the relative quality you need for a decent backup striker. Jesus adds something different for Arsenal, and I think what you saw against PSV, who by no means is a side based on my prediction, you'd also think that like expect to get thrashed like this. I really, yeah, they looked impressive, and that gives me a little more worry heading into a little North London derby this weekend. But we'll get to that a little later in the show. The other result was the Sevilla and Lens draw 1-1. But I think both of us, even after this contest, I'm still leaning towards Arsenal 1, PSV 2 in this group. I think Arsenal just got a very favorable group after seeing how well they handled PSV. What are you saying?
No, I agree. When you look at a team like Arsenal, I think the best thing or the best concept that can come out of offensive production is I love is different goal scorers, right? Especially when you put up a big number like a 4 or a 5. When you see 4 or 5 different goal scorers, I love when teams share the love just because it shows that, you know, there's a balanced system. And Arsenal are playing really good football right now. And it's a hot start for their Champions League campaign. This is a competition, Sammy, that I know we both rag on Arsenal, you know, you being a Tottenham fan, me being a United fan. Arsenal were a well-known Champions League club. You know, the days of Thierry Henry, Dennis Bergkamp. You know, just going back, there's so many other legends to name. Sol Campbell, just to name another one. But this is, you know, this is their old identity, and I think they're really bringing that back. And I think they really, you know, are looking for it with Mikel Arteta at the helm, and you know, he brought him to second last year. So right now for them, like their mentality is like champions or bust, right? I think silverware might be in their future, depending on the competition. It's going to be hard for any team to really dethrone Man City in both the Champions League and the Premier League. But if one team can do it, it just might be Arsenal. I I want to see more from Liverpool. I know I'm getting off topic, but Arsenal is one team that I think if they continue a good Champions League run and really hit that January window with one or two surprise, like, hey, by the way, we're going to make a signing here. But then you ask the question, like, where do they need help? And you know, splitting time with Ramsdale and David Raya has been a real eye opener for the club. But they're playing good football, and yeah, I definitely have a 1-2 of Arsenal and PSV as well. I think PSV will rebound after this onslaught.
I think that was also telling what they think of their two goalkeepers, that they went with Raya back to back starts and in the first Champions League start. I think that tells you who's one and who's two. And I think that's the correct choice. I think they're
Yeah,
making the right choice, who's one and who's two. But yeah, okay, let's move on to Group C. Group C was one of the more exciting ones, and you might not have expected it to be. Jude freaking Bellingham at the death for a 1-0 win at Madrid, an away match for Union Berlin, but it was a deserved win for Madrid. 32 shots, just shy of 4 expected goals. So one you can argue, and you should argue, one was due, one was coming, and it did. Jude Bellingham is on an absolute tear, and watching him play for Madrid is a pleasure to watch so far. And then the result that I was surprised by, or not the result, I should say, but what it took to get the result, 2-1 Napoli. But Napoli, it was 1-1 in the 84th after Bruma equalized, but it was an own goal that put Napoli ahead and got them the 3 points. Jeremy, how are we feeling about Group C after a really weird first match day?
well, man, you know me, I was pulling for that upset, but I think Jude Bellingham might be. I think he might be right now the best midfielder in the world. You know, with KDB being hurt, it really opens up another like who can be this big midfielder. Now, to me, Jude Bellingham is a number 8, which means he's not a 6, but he's not a 10. Like I think he's right in that middle, like box to box midfielder. Can distribute, can also defend as well, but he shows that he could put the ball in the back of the net. I want to give props to Union. I was like they didn't have any shots on target, but a positive to come out of this. Brendan Aronson getting time at the Bernabeu. That makes American soccer fans like, wow, like our boys are really playing at the top level. Um, I think they can really contend in this group. I still think they're going to finish in third. I do think they're going to get the Europa League spot when it's all said and done. Because I just hope that they can rebound a little bit with their Bundesliga campaign. Right now, I believe they're 2 wins. They're 2-2-0. So not a bad start for them. Not a bad start to the campaign. You're holding, you know, Los Blancos, one of the world powerhouses, to a 1-0 win at home. Yeah, it's a kick in the pants. It's a real like you know, we had him, we could have salvaged a point, but that late magic from Mr. Bellingham is just gross. It goes to show you like what this Madrid midfield, say that 5 times fast, what this Madrid midfield can really show, not only in this competition and in La Liga for now, but for like at least the next 5, maybe a decade.
the tear he's on right now for Madrid is
Unreal.
simple. Also, just like their youth, I think, is understated because everyone's been highlighting the youth that Arsenal has, and for good reason. They built something and they did it the right way, as much as it hurts to admit. And I think, yeah, Tottenham fan, it hurts to admit, but they did do it the right
Right.
way. There's no denying it. They really
Yeah.
did.
That's what it's the best way, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you like it when a Tottenham youngster comes up through the rankings, as do I. And I mentioned, Marcus Rashford, how he's just taken the whole world by storm. That's the beauty of football, right? Is like you get to train these youngsters, and then they get to that, they're playing on pitches that are, you know, that hold maybe like a few hundred, to then playing at the Bernabeu, which holds about, I don't know, I want to say approximately like 70,000 maybe. I know like Old Trafford's about 75. So give or take like 60,000, 70,000. That's the best. And you want to like that chant, when Harry Kane was coming up and he's one of our own. Like that's one of the best chants in soccer, just because it's like in your face. Like we didn't have to pay money for this guy. We signed a contract with him when he was 10 years old, and now he's playing here on the world's biggest stage. And with Real Madrid, they're one of the best clubs at doing that with the Arsenals. With, I'll still consider Tottenham a good one because I really like Tottenham youngsters that come up. United as well. And what's another one? Maybe what's another big like academy?
I mean, Brighton's academy has taken a
Oh,
really positive swing the
oh
past,
yeah, their
but
stock
they
is huge
maybe
now.
not a really long like a longevity, but like
No,
their recent success has been extraordinarily impressive, and they restock and reload like it is just
yeah,
rinse and repeat. But
this
what I wanted to say quickly was that Arsenal did it kind of through their system, but you look at the purchases that Real Madrid has made, and they're purchasing for their future. Like
yeah,
the midfielders that they've bought recently or that they've also developed have come in and instantly replaced what has been one of the best midfields in the world for the past decade plus. You know, so they're just preparing for another decade or two of dominance. It's just impressive the way they go about their business. But just you make the point that Spurs kind of do it well too. Like they got guys like Dane Scarlett, and some pretty exciting young guys, but also they're starting to, I think, put their money in the right places when it comes to certain guys with with what they actually did this offseason. If you really think about like Kulusevski, if you saw, there was a picture that they took at the end of just everyone kind of celebrating that game-winning goal, and Kulusevski was the oldest one in the picture. So,
that's
and
actually funny.
He's 23. He's
Yeah,
23. It was like Brennan Johnson in the picture. It was Sarr. It was Basuma. Like it's about building something for the
but
future. And
Suma's that young.
I'm pretty sure I don't. Maybe Basuma wasn't in the picture, but it was in general. It was that like maybe Basuma's like
Was Udogi in it or no?
you Doji. I can't remember. I just remember the cat. Like I like looked at the caption and saw everybody. So, but
I just like
blanking
saying
on that.
that.
All right, this is now terrible podcasting. I'm doing. All right,
Let's
moving
go to
on.
Group D. Let's go to Group D.
Yeah, that's gonna be Group D. I got my, where this is the first time in a little while we're recording at night, so the brain's a little fuzzy.
This
So,
is 90
uh,
plus 2 after dark.
yeah, pretty much. Not lying. All right, Group D. Really a weird one too. Like the whole day, like 2 days, weird. Salzburg 2-0 over Benfica, which I wouldn't have guessed in a million years, but a 13th minute red card certainly helps you accomplish that. Antonio Silva was the one sent off in the 13th minute. I believe it was a handball, if I'm not mistaken. There was a few red cards throughout the 2 days, so kind of a lot more than you'd expect. So Salzburg grabbed 3 points, and then Lautaro Martinez saved one for Inter with an 87th minute equalizer. I like this is I feel like in general when you're looking at the Champions League in I would say relatively recent memory, the past few years, it really has felt fairly safe for most of the powerhouses. Most of the teams you expect to get through typically get through, with maybe one or two exceptions. When you look a little further down the line back in the history, getting out of the group stage was a little bit harder to accomplish. This first 2 days made it seem like maybe it's shifting them back in that right direction of being a little more competitive, because you saw some of those better sides, some of those powerhouses struggle to maybe not struggle to play well, but struggle to find the back of the net more than maybe you're used to. Like 1-0 for that Madrid game. I'm sorry. Like if I were to make a bet 100 times, I would have made $0 on that game. Like there's just some really surprising results, and Inter drawing in that game is one of those really surprising results for me. And if this in general, obviously we still have four more groups to go through, but if these two match days, this first match week is any indication of what we got in store, my predictions are going to be terrible.
I think what this competition proves is that anything can happen, even though I still think Man City's going to take this tournament by storm. I just don't know how in God's green earth that Gerhard Struber, the former manager of the New York Red Bulls, defeated Benfica in the first game of the Champions League. I can't. I really can't, man. This is just wild. It's
Small world, small
that
world.
result. Yeah, that result was the real eye opener because I'm very high on Benfica and their team. Um, and obviously struggling, in somewhat of that game with the red card as one of the couple red cards in Champions League. Celtic had a red card.
Celtic had two,
Copenhagen.
didn't they? By the end
Benfica.
of the match, I thought Celtic had two by the end.
Celtic might have had to, because those Scots are really,
They're a little feisty.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know. That's just me. But yeah, big result for Gerhard Struber, RB Salzburg, one of those teams that you might want to keep an eye out to play spoiler in Group D.
No, certainly. Group E, another interesting one that it was two red cards there for Celtic. Feyenoord. I think this is one you were rooting for the other side. I'm pretty high on Feyenoord and in general the Dutch league, even though it comes back to bite me eventually. But Feyenoord 2-0. But again, if you're gonna win 2-0 against a team that has two red cards, it's not an overly impressive victory. Like I don't think Celtic should be too discouraged. I think they just got to keep their head a little better, which is just the general kind of gist of the Champions League because you're so fired up about the matches. Sometimes when things don't go your way, it's very easy to let the emotions run a little high. And then the other match was I was so low on Lazio, and then they still came out and found a way to get a draw against Atletico Madrid. It was a marvelous, marvelous equalizer. One that's a highlight. I think we'll all be watching for a little while. Little while. A keeper finds the equalizer at the death in a Champions League match. Ivan Provida finds the back of the net. Honestly, a keeper I had never heard of until he found the back of the net. And the funniest part, or the most enjoyable part, aside from like right after the goal, he had no clue how he wanted to celebrate. He was just running around endlessly, and I thought it was so funny the pure emotion. Next time he's like, he was like a deer in headlights. He scored, and he was like trying to process what just happened. It was cool to see, and it was a really cool moment for them. And what was just watching Atletico Madrid, like I know I'm a big Griezmann guy, but they are a tough team to watch, like in general. They're not a fun football team in general.
Yeah, Providel's goal reminded me of when I scored my one and only goal in high school. It was a game where we were like down like 4 goals, and it was a corner kick, and I went for a volley, and then instead of hitting it off my boot, I hit it off my shin guard, but it just rolled in the net. And I'm not a scorer; I'm more of a distributor. I was more of like a passer, pass first type player in high school, and I didn't know what to do when I scored, so I T-bowed. I went to the knee, put the fist on my hand, and just did a Tebow celebration. But yeah, seeing him like not know how to celebrate really kind of hit home because I was like, yeah, that was me about a couple of years ago, my junior year of high school. But no, yeah, big ups to Lazio finding an equalizer there at the end. And to me, I think it's way harder for a goalie in soccer to score in hockey. Because at least in hockey, goalies are shooting more times than none at an empty net. You got another goalie in there, and it's going to come off of a corner kick. A, you got to find a perfect cross. B, you got to find your head. Like usually goalies are taller, so they're gonna need to time that jump perfectly, and you got to beat the keeper. So props to Ivan Providel, man. Let's buy some stock in him, and maybe he gets a big move later on in his career to maybe the Premier League. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, no,
But
that was
hey,
something.
Celtic will rebound. I guess it's going to be very difficult for them to find a Europa League spot.
There's not much to say about like a team that had two red cards. Like if you lose and you had two red cards, you probably would never really had much of a shot. The fact that if they had pulled something off, might have been what we led with. But this group is probably going to be the tightest group, I think, points wise when we get down to the end of it. If there's 1 through 4, You're going to see some tight, maybe 1 through 3 battles in some other groups, but I think 1 through 4, this one's going to be I can really see anyone getting through type of group. So this will be really interesting to see how this one plays out. I mean, I don't think we really had Feyenoord at the top of the group at the end of the weekend coming into it. So certainly some exciting stuff. But let's go to the group of death. Group F started everything here with Milan and Newcastle. A weird 0-0 draw. Milan, a much better side, but, found a way. It was Newcastle getting a point on the road at Milan, and it could bode well for them towards the end of this when you're kind of trying to find that extra point or two. That away result could be big for them, especially because they didn't play all that well. And still, they found a way to just find a way to get a point. And then the other result was a pretty simple routine 2-0 win for PSG over Dortmund. Jeremy, how are we feeling?
Man, I feel really bad for Milan, after getting slaughtered by their rival. I really thought they were going to come out of this one with a victory. I really did. I'm not high on Newcastle. I'm not high, even though I love my Eddie Howe. But
he was weird how he was talking about the Champions League. He seemed
yeah,
almost unexcited, like
yeah,
uninterested.
right. Like
Like
it's
he was,
just
it's just like it's just a football game. It's like no, it's not. It's not.
yeah. At
But
some point, you have to realize like this is everything. Every club wants to be here,
this is cool. Like
and you're here when like Liverpool isn't, and you're here when like other
Tottenham
teams.
isn't.
Yeah, Tottenham isn't, Chelsea isn't. Team like English teams that you expect to be here, right? Yeah, it's all part of like bringing Newcastle's old another team that has an old mentality of playing Champions League and the days of Alan Shearer. But PSG, are they going to win this group big? You think?
Not big, but I think that result is going to be something you see PSG do in general in this group. Like, I think PSG will definitely top it. And I think they'll be safe going into the final weekend, the final match week, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it's going to be like they're cleaning up and going 6-0, I think it's going to be maybe maybe a 4-win kind of performance for them in this group.
That's
Because
fair.
again, they're still a vulnerable team, in Milan and Newcastle are still very good sides, and I think Dortmund is the worst of the 4 teams in this. So I'm thinking PSG is going to have to win some 1-goal games, and I'm so high on PSG in this group, not high on them in terms of an overall potentially winning this, but I am high on them in terms of coming on top of this group.
Yeah, fair enough. I agree too.
All right, 2 more groups: Group G and then Group H. Group G was an RB Leipzig 3-1 win over Young Boys, the first team I ever had my career player play for in FIFA. Just
Young
a
boys.
random, yeah, just random. Just random. Before I even knew soccer, I was like, dude, Young Boys, that's a sick team. Let me play for them. But that was when I was trying to teach myself soccer, so it was pretty funny. Every time I see them, that's just what comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other routine 3-1 City win. It was less than routine than you might expect. 3-1 is probably the result you might have expected, if not a little bit more. But City trailed at the half, despite breaking a Champions League record for shots in the first half. 22, 7 on goal, 79% possession, 10 corners, and almost 2.5 XG in the first half. And they were down 1-0. Wow. Gotta love football. But they still found a way to find 3 goals in the second half and win fairly comfortably. And my only real comment on City on this group is I am falling in love with Julian Alvarez as a player. He's a baller, man. He really is.
I think he's going to be scoring a lot of goals against Andre Onana in his near future. But this is just a prime example of even when losing, they're still winning. You know what I mean? Like even when they're down on the scoreboard, it's like, yeah, we're still gonna come back and beat you. There wasn't a worry, I think. Yeah, the score was alarming, but soccer's 90 minutes for a reason, right? Like it's not like UFC where you got 3 rounds to make it up. You got 90 minutes to really find your way and find your groove, and they did just that. And it proves just to show you that they are the best. They're the best in the world for a reason. Pep is one of the best managers in the world for a reason. And to me, there wasn't a doubt. There wasn't a doubt. And yeah, they're the best of the best. And I'm going to keep saying it. And even though I hate saying it because I don't like giving gratitude towards a rival, and I don't like saying like, oh, they're the better Manchester team. Yeah, of course they're gonna be because they will be for years. But hey, I'm really excited for when Leipzig and Man City go at it. That'll be a fun little. I still think Man City might come out on top, but I think Leipzig's gonna put up a good squad that might maybe salvage a point, especially in
Yeah.
Leipzig.
I mean, I've never seen Man City and Leipzig play in the group stages before, so that should be interesting. No, I think City's gonna clean sweep this group. I think Leipzig's decent, and I think they're gonna put up like it's gonna be a decent football match to watch. But I'm not worried about City or at all. Like maybe in Germany, maybe, but I'm not too worried about it.
Maybe.
All right,
Yeah.
Group H was I think the most routine and predictable one of all of them. Maybe the scores were one of the scores was a little wider than you would have guessed, just because 5 goals for one team in a match is hard to predict. But Barcelona 5-0 over Antwerp. João Felix looks like he did before Chelsea almost ruined his career. And Porto 3-1 over Shakhtar, as you would expect. And at least my lock hit if my surprising result wasn't going to hit. Any comment on this one? This one, I was like, okay, I don't really have a ton to say because this is pretty much what I expected.
No, you hit the nail on the head again with Joao Felix. I think he's been this one young, promising player through his days at Atletico. And when he went to Chelsea, something was off when he signed with Chelsea on loan. It didn't fit with him. It didn't fit with him. And it was kind of the same feeling I got with like Pulisic. When Pulisic left Dortmund to go to Chelsea, I was like, they're not Chelsea players. Him playing on Barcelona, man. And I will say though, even though we kind of ragged on Barcelona with their issues that have gone on with the club, last season, that kit with the Spotify logo, like I love a good kit, me, try to wear a different one every episode, but the Spotify logo just hits. And when I see Robert Lewandowski, my Polish self, gets very happy when he's scoring goals still at his young age of mid-30. I forget what his exact age is, but he's still a world-class striker. He will bag goals. Yes, it's Royal Antwerp, but still, you're going to see it in La Liga. You're going to see it against Porto and Shakhtar come later on in this Champions League campaign. I might need to get a Barca kit in the near future. I really do.
I have a whole list of kits that I need to start getting. I also want to find like one of those like subscription services to get a random kit.
Oh, I know a great one. Maybe we can partner with one.
Yeah, I think I definitely want to get involved just because I want to start collecting. I also have a bunch of kits that I want to get just in terms of I finally like I'm in that like I not
when
that,
you
like,
when you buy your first one, it gets like wow,
kind of
like,
addicting.
and even like I wear them too. Some people don't even wear them. Some people just let them hang in their closet. But when you get that first one and you rip open the package, like I used to get mystery kits. This was a mystery kit one. I got this one. This is a Series B.
This is my first right here, baby.
Love that.
Oh, yeah.
I love Sonny. But when you get your first kit, like when you got the Griezmann one, I'm sure you were like because your other kits were all Tottenham. That's how I
think you actually probably remember because it was while I was at Syracuse when how excited I was about that kit. I was fired up. Plus, I love Griezmann.
Yeah, but once you get that first one, it doesn't. It's hard to stop. It's hard to stop. Look, my closet's full of them, but it's a lot of fun, and you can find good deals too with kits.
No, definitely. I just have to kind of find that balance between finding ones with players on it and like getting just like cool ones for just random teams. That's why I think the random subscription would be kind of cool because every once in a while I'll get one that I'm really fired up about. But I also have a couple players. Obviously, Tottenham have a whole kind of like restocking of players for the futures recently. So I have a lot of kits that I want to get. And I think it does kind of start. The first two ones I'm getting is one, Harry Kane for Bayern. I think that's the easiest purchase I'm going to have. And then Matters. James Madison, it's got to be. And then the alternate for AC Milan, that like crazy like pink and like they have a crazy alternate that I want to get for Rafael Leao at some point. But again, we could go on about this for a while. But I think it's time. Let's move on to these other European competitions that actually took place today. So we had Europa and Conference League today, and we're not going to do the same in-depth analysis that we did just because there's two other full competitions that are going on that aren't quite as big as the Champions League. But these are the results that really stood out to me over the course of the day. Three unanswered goals for West Ham get them a win, and it was the same story for Liverpool and their comeback win. Big ups to Mohamed Salah, who tied Thierry Henry for a what was this? I forgot the specific thing that he did. It was it like English, like professional English players or players coming from England, scoring in a European competition? It was like tied for the most goals in whatever. We'll get to
Yeah,
that.
ties
Is that what?
ties ties Henry for most goals scored by an English club's player in European football.
Okay, so I said that just in like the least educated way I possibly could. Cool. All right. Um, Ajax Marseille was a 3-3 thriller. This is actually the only one that I was really watching. This was actually a really cool game. This is one I actually had on for pretty much the full contest. And then Brighton surprisingly lost. I didn't even think to put this one on. I thought Brighton was going to take care of business against Athens, but they fell despite Fati starting. Villarreal fell as well to Panathinaikos 3-2. Leverkusen stay hot, 4-0 win for them. And then Legia upset Aston Villa 3-2. Jeremy, any of these stand out to you?
Obama what? Obama who? I don't like AFTV, but I'm going to say this once. Obama Blue Yang. I love Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. I love him so much. When he was like this FIFA 14, 15 like stud, everyone was like, "Who's this random striker from Gabon?" Like no one really heard of Gabon unless you were like unless you were a fan of Survivor. But him being on Marseille, I think, is a really perfect fit, especially now that he's older in his career. I really like seeing Marseille being back, and especially now when it's hard for French league teams to be in Champions League because they only get two automatic spots. Look, I'm ready for this one at the Velodrome. If this is what we get at Cruyff Arena, we get a 3-all, 6-goal thriller and a late red card too for Ajax. That almost like kind of hurt them, but I don't know how many. Were there any like what was the added time given? Do you remember?
No, off the top of my head. Not as much as they've been given in the Premier League lately.
Oh my god, that's another topic. We can probably do an episode just on that. Um, I wanna point out another one too because you hit the head. You mentioned the resilience of the English clubs apart from Aston Villa, but like West Ham getting three unanswered. Liverpool. I saw the last goal. When that last goal went in, I was like, oh, uh-oh. Like, and it was a little early, but I was like, I still trust Jurgen Klopp. I trust Jurgen Klopp in my life, if I'm being honest. But Rangers 1-0 over Betis. This one was really this is an eye opener because right now, yeah, Celtic are the better of the Scottish teams, and they defeated Rangers in the Old Firm Derby just a few weeks back. But Rangers are a team that can slowly come back to, European glory. I don't know if you're familiar with the scandal that took place with Rangers years ago, but they had to like get out of the Scottish Prem and kind of like build their way back up. And they did it all in the years, the minimum years that it took. But now that they're playing top quality and playing in the Europa League, I think the Europa League is a great competition for them. I think this is a competition that they're one of my dark horses to win the competition. Um, I would love to see a Liverpool Ranger semifinal. A two-leg, one at the Ibrox, the other at Anfield. I think would be insanity. I think both of them would travel well. But they are a rival club. I'm really praising my rivals here, City and Rangers. But no, I think this 1-0 victory for Rangers is going to be a real like fire starter for their Europa campaign.
Yeah, and just talk about something we mentioned, or I mentioned specifically in the Champions League, is that some of these bigger clubs are struggling against teams that you wouldn't expect. And this is something that I understand you have to be selective about who you start, especially when you're in Europa Conference League, because you don't get the same kind of funding that you get for being in the Champions League. You don't get to kind of stock your club with, players you trust to play in these type of situations. So you kind of got to bend and make sacrifices in certain areas just to keep players fresh. But if you're a team that hasn't had an opportunity to go win a trophy, I don't understand why teams aren't a little more aggressive, trying to take advantage of opportunities. Because And like I understand the conference league isn't huge for Villa, but I figured they'd be a little more like not that they didn't start most of their quality players, but it didn't seem just kind of from the glimpses that I got that they were overly up for this one, like you'd expect for a team that hasn't had European competition like this in a little while. And this is something that I criticized Tottenham for early in the year with the Carabao Cup, not kind of going for it against Fulham when you were playing a Premier League side in your first matchup in that kind of alternate cup. So it's just kind of teams prior like priorities are a little weird. Just kind of from my perspective. I don't know if you have a comment on that.
No, you're right. I think like with today's results, like with the Europa League, um, you know, most of the teams that expected to win did win, apart from I don't know, like I don't even know what the opening line was for Brighton and Athens. I guess I would favor Athens just because I think they've been in more European competitions than Brighton and Hove Albion have in the last couple of years. Um, yeah, this is an
You're
exciting.
gonna you're gonna favor Athens against Brighton?
Are you being funny or serious?
No, I'm being completely serious.
No, no, no. I just didn't know because, like, yeah, I don't think Brighton is a bad team at all. But
It is.
I
I
just,
think
I just
they're
think it's inexperience in European competition. That's
like
all.
I understand that they're just like in terms of favoring. Like I'm fine with everything else you said. Just like favoring Athens over Brighton would be just based on
I don't know.
their recent form. Like Brighton's been so good lately. Like I
Yeah,
that's kind of
but then again, like you look at like you look at the Champions League. Like, Europa League's a bad example because most of the expected winners did find results today. But you look at the Champions League and it's just like, huh, like anything can happen.
yeah.
I still think Brighton are going to find the form and and maybe get out of this group. I would expect them to. I would expect them to make it to the knockout rounds. I think getting to the knockout rounds, getting that better competition, like maybe playing against like a Bayern Leverkusen or a Jose Mourinho. I almost knocked over my printer. A Jose Mourinho led Roma team could be a real test for De Zerbi and this Brighton team, this really young Brighton team. And I think it's going to draw them some global, I want to see what they do with their scouting for the next couple of years and really like, because we've praised their academy in this episode, but Brighton can now be a draw, especially if they finish in constantly in Europa League or Conference League. Hell, who knows? Even a Champions League spot maybe in a year or two. This could be this competition alone could be really big, not necessarily for results, but just for the overall name of Brighton and Hove Albion.
Yeah, I think again, I just want to see these English teams that really impressed last season kind of just getting a place that you might not have expected be a bit more assertive with their opportunity. Because I'm sitting here wishing Tottenham were in this competition or one of these competitions playing in a midweek match. Um, it's just kind of coming from that the fan perspective of
Yeah.
my team missed out on this by a few points, and here you guys like two teams that got those two spots aren't really going for it like I would not that Tottenham necessarily would have because they don't make the right choices there either. But you kind of get what I'm saying, at least in terms of like just the I want to see these teams take advantage of the opportunities they're getting in Europe because England has a chance right now to really establish the Premier League as the definitive number one league. Not that it kind of isn't already, but in the European stage, really take over.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean
and this is the perfect year for it.
yeah,
But all right, you ready for a little weekend preview here?
yeah, sure, fire away.
I would say Saturday is fairly quiet. We can start with Saturday just in terms of the Premier League with United and Burnley, just where you're at with that contest. As far as the Premier League, I'll kind of just say this up front. Serie A and the Bundesliga both have teams playing teams that you'd expect to beat. Like no one really has a real, marquee matchup in either of those leagues. In Ligue 1, you're looking at PSG and Marseille. That one could be pretty exciting. There's one match I think we will dive into for La Liga that's certainly worth it. And then we'll look at one match in Eredivisie as well. Jeremy?
Where is that PSG Marseille match being played?
PSG in Paris.
Okay, it's at Parc de Prince. Okay,
Yeah.
if it was at the Velodrome, I was gonna say, who maybe
See,
you
if
get
it
a
was at
little.
the if if it was in the Velodrome, I wouldn't have used it as a precursor. I think I would have wanted to talk about that one a little bit more.
Yeah.
But that one being at PSG is a little, and I think Marseille is just going to be wiped from their match against
Cool.
Ajax
Yeah,
because although
I agree.
although playing Dortmund's no slouch, like they won 2-0, they were in control of that match versus being in a 3-3 battle on the road. It's that's tough to come back and play.
And
Probably
that's a
beat.
Saturday, not a Sunday.
I don't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday. I just know when Saturday was United. That was more what I was referring to in Saturday. That might be Sunday. I'm not 100% certain.
Let me see
I
here.
feel like it has to be Sunday
Has
if
to
they were
be,
if they
yeah,
were
because
playing
I
on Thursday.
uh sorry, my Sunday. Thank God. That would
Yeah.
have been terrible for them. That would have been so bad.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of where I'm at for Saturday, um, I don't want to I don't want to use the term this is a must win, but I think it is. I think it's come to that point in the season where United have dropped so many like results in a short amount of time where I think a win against newly promoted Burnley wasn't what I was expecting to really like rejuvenate, or this season as a whole. But the 3 points is very important for this club. This is a game where I think they need to play complete football from head to toe. What we've seen with this United team so far is that they have dominated the early parts of the game. Right? I thought they were really great against Bayern. I thought they were great against. I thought they were decent against Arsenal, but I think they need goals. They're gonna have to find a way to get goals. And I think one player that needs to really like step up and really perform to the quality that he needs to is number 10, Marcus Rashford. I think Rashford needs to be the integral part of this team alongside Bruno Fernandes. And with injuries, I think Sergio Reguilon has been superb in his tenure so far with Man U. I really like seeing him in that away kit. I'm not a big fan of that away kit, that green and white striped one, but it looks awesome on Regulon. I don't know why.
He
He
looks good
rocks it.
in random stuff, but he looked
Yeah,
good in the Tottenham alternates too.
he rocks it the best, right? And not a fan of Onana's goalie kits. I'm not a fan with the yellow and red numbers, but um kind of looks like a McDonald's jersey in my opinion. But I think 3 points should and will come from Man United on Saturday. I think this is a time for them to just say like, hey, we battled back. We tried to salvage a point at the Allianz. When you concede four, it's almost impossible. And Ten Hag said it best: when you score 3 goals on the road, you expect at least 1 point, and he got 0. I do think that they could score 2-3 goals against Burnley. I really do, and I think after his howler, I think Onana's going to be like on one. And sure, it's Burnley, and everyone's going to say, "Oh, it's Burnley." Like it's a double negative if Man U win, right, or win or lose. If they lose, it's like, how'd you lose to Burnley? And then if you win 3-0, it's like it's only Burnley. For me, it's like 3 points or bust, and that's where I'm at right
Yeah, when you're looking at 6 points from 5 as a Manchester United, and the wild the I don't know if it's wild, but kind of entertaining thing about the Premier League this season is that Chelsea have 5 points from 5.
now. Right, that's the only bright
So
light.
yeah, and then Newcastle also have 6 from 5. So it's just been a weird season. But I think you're kind of right where United just need a confidence boost. They need to start getting the dominoes rolling in the right direction. And I think 3 points from this, and they're through a tough start to their schedule, and they're in a bit of a softer part in terms of the Premier League games. Obviously, when you're playing midweek, it doesn't make anything easier. But
Yeah,
in terms of their Premier League slate, they're not facing the cream of the crop every single week like it seemed like they were through those first few match weeks. So I think this is their opportunity to try to get something going, try to creep back into that top 10 and get something going for sure.
yeah, I
Um,
agree. This late September, early October is going to be the catalyst in what determines Man U's fate. If they start dropping performances again, I don't want to like look at. I'm not saying like, oh, let's look at the managerial situation, but something's going to have to be done, like in terms of like structure, players, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah, no, definitely. All right. let's go to Sunday in the Premier League. A really, really exciting day, if you ask me. I mean, obviously, if you ask me, because it's a North London derby, it's a London derby. But God, it's at Arsenal. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be at Arsenal. They got a lot of confidence after a 4-0 win against PSV, who again I don't think is as bad as that result made them look. You're looking at Spurs and Arsenal in a North London derby. Anything can happen. And just as you said, these next coming weeks and month and a half or so of matches for Man United are going to be crucial. These next two games for Spurs with that Liverpool and Arsenal on their slate is really going to determine where are they at in terms of being able to compete with the best of the best, and where should the fans place their hopes and expectations. So when you're squaring off against a team like Arsenal, you're on the road. Last time you went there, it was not a fun time. You lost 3-1. So they need to go out there and not necessarily win, but you need a you need to still be the fun Spurs we've seen through the first few weeks. And I think that's kind of what Tottenham needs to continue to establish more than anything else this season, is that under Ainge, I want this team to continue being that entertaining style of football you've seen. If they're going to drop results against the best team, considering that they just sold their all-time leading scorer, I can live with that. But continue to be competitive, just as United pushed Arsenal to really have to kind of go after those 3 points. I want to see the same difficulty in getting 3 points if that's what Arsenal do. But again, I still think Spurs have the ability to get something out of this match.
I love this 9 o'clock window on Sunday. I think this is one of the
There's,
this is one of the best blocks I think we're going to get all year long. Right? You have the North London Derby at the Emirates. That is probably going to be that should be the nationally televised one. That one might get. I don't know if it'll be on Channel 4. It'll definitely be on USA. Liverpool West Ham at Anfield is also one that's like, whoa, because West Ham have really had a real strong start to their season. And you get Liverpool at home and you get to hear You'll Never Walk Alone. And I start crying because I cry every time I hear that song, even though it's a rival team again. Again, here I am praising my rival. The Brighton Bournemouth game is an odd one. Same with Chelsea Aston Villa. Like, if Aston Villa can beat Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, this season's really like starting off poorly for if it one team that's started more poorly than Man U is Chelsea, right? And yeah, it's 1 point, but like they spend a lot more money than we do, and they're really not showing for it. Brighton Bournemouth, on the other hand, is one where we can just see De Zerbi kind of like just take those wins and run, right? Like I think Brighton are going to be a heavy favorite in this one, but I still think it's going to be a very very competitive match. I think Bournemouth had a real like oddly like successful transfer window, like bringing in players like Kluivert to their system. Um, it's going to be a game of just of ballers, in my opinion. You got 22 ballers on the field, and I still think because this is at the Amex, I still favor Brighton heavily. And then you end Sunday with Sheffield Newcastle, kind of a strange one. It's a
I
big
think
home.
that they fumbled the scheduling on that one,
Yeah,
if you asked
like
me.
I
Like,
I think Liverpool West Ham or Arsenal Tottenham should have been the later afternoon one right before football. But it's still like a meh, it's okay. But like the 9 o'clock window on Sunday is the best window by far.
yeah. I mean, if either of those Liverpool, West Ham, Tottenham, obviously as a Tottenham fan, Arsenal, games are on that late window, I'm finishing those games before we put on the red zone or anything like that. Newcastle, depending on the score, we're debatable
Yeah,
there.
that's a heavy debate.
Yeah, heavy debate because you can't really miss Scott Hansen as much as you love soccer.
Love Scott
Um,
Hansen.
absolutely. All right, so let's wrap up these other leagues. We kind of mentioned that Serie A and Bundesliga really have favorites going up against teams you'd expect them to beat. The Liga is really the one where you're gonna keep your eyes on Sunday as well. They might take over NFL for a little while because at 3 p.m. that would be Eastern Standard Time. Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid. Quite the fixture here early in the season. Battle of Madrid. I think Atletico is going to get pumped. personally, just based
Even
on
at
their
even at Metropolitano.
I just they haven't looked good lately, and I've declared Atletico as my team. I'm not overly confident because I think that late, although it was a match that Real Madrid expected to win, that a late winner like that's gonna fire you up. And they were creating chance after chance and really should have been up by a lot more. And Atletico, they're just so not fun to watch. Like Simeone's a good manager, but he just does not create exciting football on the field. And I think when you play counterattacking football against a team like Real Madrid, you leave yourself very vulnerable to just get peppered if one or two start sneaking through. So I do expect Real Madrid to really come away with that one.
I I agree. Like I do think Madrid will probably win handily. I think it might be like a 2-3 goal deficit. When you start the year 15 points from perfect. It's and this result against Union, yeah, it's against Union, but like still, if you're scoring a late winner against Man City, or if you're scoring a late winner against Queen of Peace Elementary School, it's still gonna be like it's still that same like wow, like we were able to pull that one out. This is definitely, if not Arsenal Tottenham, this is the match of the weekend in terms of what's going to get the most eyeballs for soccer. Um, Man, Madrid just look Real. Let me
Also, Atletico are coming off a deflating result where you just got scored on an equalizer by a goalkeeper.
by a
Like
goal by a goalie. Yeah.
that's disheartening. That's deflating.
What's
Like
the uh
I
what's the over under for goals scored in this matchup? Take the over because I think I say like a 3-1 Real Madrid. That'll be like my early prediction.
Yeah, I think that's a fair. That's probably what I would go about. I might even go 4-2.
Mm.
Like I just think like Atletico's one of those teams like once you can kind of crack them, you can start really peppering the back of the net. And Real Madrid's one of those teams that could really find a way to do that. But yeah, I don't know. This one's gonna be something I'm gonna have my eye on, and I will have my Griezmann kit on at 3. All right, the last one I do want to talk about is just kind of starting to incorporate Eredivisie a little bit more into this podcast, just because they are, I think, in just terms of overall, like, I don't know exactly how they do the rankings in terms of European like football when they rank the overall leagues in their comparison. It's like a coefficient that they create. But
Mm-hmm.
Eredivisie in the Dutch league is very competitive now with France at that 5 spot. It's kind of like 1A, 1B now. So I do want to start incorporating some of the bigger matches for that league. And then we have Feyenoord and Ajax. Feyenoord with a really positive 2-0 result against Celtic, although the 2 red cards, but you're still beating a quality Celtic team. Then Ajax in the same battle that we saw with Marseille. So it's actually pretty interesting seeing Ajax and Marseille both have tough matches following really, really exciting battle in that 3-3 match. I don't know if you have a ton to say about this one. I just wanted to start incorporating the bigger matches just in case some of our listeners want to kind of throw that match on or just keep an eye on
No,
Iridize.
that's going to be an absolute slobber knocker, as a good old Jim Ross used to say back in the day. But I'm looking at the standings of the Dutch league. There's a team called the Go Ahead Eagles. Like that's just like that's such a baller name. Like that's just like it sounds like also like a name like that
I
like
want to see
Carney
them
like
and
Carney
Young Boys
Rec.
play. Them and
Yeah,
Young Boys
young
got to
boys
play.
against Go Ahead Eagles. I might have
That's
to
elite.
snag a Go Ahead Eagles jersey, but no, Ajax and Feyenoord, and this one being played at Johan Cruyff Arena, I believe, right?
I do not know off the top of my head.
Let me double check because I love this arena, and it was actually one of the arenas that they had in Ted Lasso, like out of the real
Yep.
stadiums when they played Ajax in a mid season friendly, which is
Didn't exactly go well for AFC Richmond.
right. No, I think they got blown up like 5-0. But yeah, this
Yeah.
one's at Johan Cruyff. So oh man, and Ajax not having a great start to their
Huh.
season. They're 12th. I oh, go figure. Who else is in 12th, right? but no, like
Newcastle.
yeah, right, yeah. Um, a lot of season left. That's why
Yeah.
that's why soccer's played. I know for teams with they have 18, so that'll be 34 match days or 34 matches, right? Because 17 times 2, 34. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not a math guy, so
Yeah, no, but like Premier League, you play 38 games because you have 19
yeah.
other
Dude, I'm lucky if
opponents.
I can count to 7 when someone's scoring. So we're just thankful.
No, but there's a lot of time left, I think, for Ajax. But again, like, why is Ajax losing, a lot of these games? Maybe because half their roster is playing for Manchester United and Arsenal, right? Like, I think a lot of their players, like
A
Jury and
lot of
Timber,
turnover.
Anthony, Lissandro Martinez, like they're losing all their guys, and sure, it's a compliment in a way because like, oh, like they're picking our players, but it just makes sense with Tenag because like he coached these players and he is used to that system. I don't think Ajax will finish in 12th. I think they will probably creep up to the top 4. I'm looking at a couple teams here like Fortuna Sittard, and they have 2 wins and 3 draws. Now they don't have any losses, but I still think like there's some room. I think PSV, AZ Alkmaar, Feyenoord, and Ajax will be your top 4 come the end of the year in the Dutch
The Eredivisie version of
league.
Brentford with 3 draws.
Eredivisie. Sounds like a nice little like appetizer you get at a restaurant.
Just another
Yeah,
word for appetizer.
you have the Eredivisie. It's late
How do you
night,
have that served? I mean,
hot or cold, hot or cold
yeah.
Eredivisie.
Yeah. I get the
Like
large size or the small.
it's like gazpacho. You eat gazpacho in your Eredivisie.
All right, we
God,
need
it's
some help.
late.
We need some help.
Oh yeah, we don't usually record this late, but
I think we should do it more often. I feel like we're a
it's
little
it's
lighter
fun.
tonight.
I like late night podcasting. This
This
is
isn't
pretty
too
fun.
bad. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna treat you a little bit with a little more MLS to round out the show. So 4-0 win for Miami, but both Messi and Alba subbed off hurt in the first half. little
Shocker.
bit, a little bit of oh, you didn't play. Well, here we go. But yeah, they were subbed off, but that win puts them in 13th, actually jumping the Red Bulls. 5 points off of DC United now, and we're looking at 2 really interesting matchups. This is in general. I know you support Red Bulls, and Miami's really the talk of the town if you're talking about the MLS. So those are kind of what I want to focus on in general in terms of what we're looking at for this coming weekend. Red Bulls play against DC, who have that last spot in the Eastern Conference. So a really, really big match there. And then Miami have a really tough match against Orlando, and I don't necessarily know the severity of Messi and Alba's injuries necessarily, whether they're going to be limited, not play, what it may be come the weekend. But you're going to need full force against Orlando. So these are 2 really big matches to pay attention to for these 2 sides. Curious what you have to say there, Jay.
So I was at the Red Bull match last night against Austin, and I felt like I was watching the MLS equivalent of Manchester United. Why? I thought the Red Bulls dominated from the opening whistle. The Red Bulls almost went up 1-0 in the second minute, and Elias Manuel found a perfectly timed ball over the top to him and tried to. I don't think he was trying to chip the keeper. The keeper was off his line. Brad thought he was going to like side foot this one into like the side netting or something like that, and it went wide. And I was like, oh, I really hope this doesn't come back to haunt us. Well, later on, about a couple minutes later, Dante Van Zier opens the scoring on what was it was a shot, but it deflected off of a defender and like banked in the net. He then goes down 5 minutes later with what looked like to be like a bruised tailbone. I don't want to speculate, but I think he might be missing this one against DC, which sucks for Red Bulls because I think he's probably our most reliable option to get a goal. But Austin did find a way to tie it up, and the game ended in a 1-1 draw. Also, shout out to Austin because this was their first time. I love when teams play at Red Bull Arena. Like I love seeing like how many away fans show up because we're not really like vulgar unless it's like New York or DC, right? Even with the Rebs are fine. Like we're 2 original clubs and we have a lot of respect for each other. This one against DC. This is the Atlantic Cup. To me, I think this rivalry outweighs the Hudson River Derby, just because the Hudson River Derby is newer. This is going to be an absolute dogfight. You got Wayne Rooney and Troy Lesane, two really, I think, are very talented managers in MLS. I really want to see a full season of Troy Lesane as a Red Bull fan. But what's important is that if the Red Bulls do win, and say hypothetically every team above them either drops points or just loses flat, they then jump to 10. And what's important is that the Red Bulls have a game in hand against New York City FC. So yeah, they're going to need a lot of help from these teams. And you need a lot
If
of
I'm not
help.
mistaken, Miami does also have a game in hand. Is that correct or no?
Miami has two in hand.
Yeah, I was gonna okay.
So they've had 28 games. Red Bulls have played 29, and New York City and DC have played 30.
Okay.
So this one's pretty much like the top. The top is pretty much locked up. Cincinnati's probably already locked up the 1 seed. They're just looking excellent. They're just an excellent team, top to bottom. That city is buzzing. Orlando's a fun team to watch as well. They're always a tough draw against the Red Bull.
Shout out Abdi Salim.
Yeah, Abdi. I hope he plays. That'd be fun.
I know he's been going back and forth. He's gotten
between
like
two.
He's kind of come off the bench a little bit with A, and then gone
kind of like Levante over in Vancouver.
Yeah, I think Levante might have been getting more time recently. I've been seeing a lot of like the stuff he's been sharing about like the kind of some of the autographs he's been signing and some of the match day stuff with the first team, which is obviously something we'd love to see for the Syracuse guys. So
well, the West race is a little bit tighter in terms of like let me just see here. So 7 points, actually 8 points separate Vancouver in fifth to LA in 13th, which just goes to show you that like anything can happen in the MLS, especially now that it's one leg, like the NFL playoffs. I love that system. One leg, let's win or go home. If you're on the road, you got to find a way to just salvage a victory. In a tough environment, if you're a Red Bull, like a Cincinnati, like in Orlando, am I optimistic about the Red Bulls? Not really. The Red Bulls have one of the longest streaks of like playoff appearances, and we might be ending it here. But I still believe in the boys. There's some winnable games. I think DC's a winnable game. I think Chicago's a winnable game. I know we play Cincinnati, which might be a loss or a draw. So, but yeah, MLS playoffs are fun. You should give them a watch. Yeah, the quality isn't as great as the Premier League, obviously, but it's Americanized soccer. It's the playoffs. Like this is the only really playoff league in soccer. Yeah, you have knockout rounds, but like this is the playoffs. Like no one else calls it the playoffs or
playoffs.
Whatever. Yeah, or actually, the teams that go or like the EFL, that's technically called the playoffs. Like the qualify, you have that one game at Wembley. Winner goes to the Premier League, and the loser just stays in the championship, which is an absolute brutal outcome for whoever loses. But that's one of my favorite games every year. Shout out Luton Town.
Yeah. All right. To finish the show very quickly, Jeremy, I'm going to do the same after you do this. We'll do one game at a time. We're going to predict those three big matches for Sunday for the Premier League. Give our predictions. So we'll finish with the North London Derby, just for my mental stake. We'll start here with Chelsea Villa. What do you got?
Chelsea Villa. So if I'm not mistaken, this one's at Stamford Bridge. I'm gonna go with a 1-1 draw. I think the Villains are gonna find a way to get a point. Let's go. Yeah, I'm gonna go 1-1 draw.
Okay. Just double checking that. Yeah, it is at Stamford Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually gonna go 1-0 Chelsea here.
Okay.
I think Chelsea's just so due for a result. Like, it's not that they've been playing horribly either. They just haven't been able to score lately. And I think this is one where, and I actually like Nicola Jackson too. So I think this is one where they're gonna find a way to sneak out 3 points that they desperately need. All right, Liverpool West Ham.
Liverpool West Ham. I'm gonna go 2-1 Liverpool.
I'm gonna go 3-2 Pool. And I think James Ward-Prowse is gonna again have another, at least an assist, if not another goal. He's been on a tear for them, for the Hammers lately. Would actually like him to take more of their free kicks and stuff, because I know they still haven't put him on everything, but he's just, he's a very underappreciated player in the. All right, this is gonna determine if we're still friends or not. The North London Derby. Give me your prediction.
I'm gonna go 2-0 Man United. Oh, I'm sorry. But no, that is my prediction for Man U. I think Onana gets a shutout at Turf Moor. 3-2 Arsenal.
I think I can understand. And as a Tottenham fan, I would be okay with that result. Like, I'm not, if we're losing 3-2 and it's a battle, like, I can live with
I'm
that.
interested what you got. What do you got, Sammy?
I have 2-1 Spurs. And
Woo! Explain, buddy. Come on.
so one, I'm gonna have a little home bias. It's gonna happen. I just have a lot of faith in Ainge Ball. I mean, to be fair, I predicted against Arsenal in the midweek, and it went so poorly for me. Couldn't have gone worse. So this one might come back to bite me, especially in a North London derby. But I love Tot. I love what I've seen from Tot. They've just been so fun, and I have a lot of faith in Vicario. I think he's done a lot to earn the trust of the fans. He's a baller, and he plays with a serious, like, he's in the game no matter what he's facing. And I think he's going to have a similar performance to what he put together against Manchester United. He's going to be under some pressure. He's going to be under some pressure.
How can he top that? That was just
unreal. I didn't say top. I didn't say top. I think he's going to be in the ball.
That was insanity. I've never seen a goalie like, and I've seen Man United play for a while. I've never seen a goalie just put the. I guess you really can't say to put the team on the back because Tottenham just played an absolute way better game than Man U.
The second half they did.
Yeah,
the first half, Vicario carried them.
Yeah, like we were throwing everything we had, everything and the kitchen sink, and this guy was just like Peter Parker, just. But 2-1 Spurs. Okay.
Yeah. And I, oddly enough, also think I feel it in my cojones, Jeremy. I feel it in my cojones. Richarlison winner. I do.
Oh, did he take his shirt off this time? Again?
I hope not. Boy, if he does, then I'm gonna just send a letter to Tottenham to sell him instantly. Like that's the line. Like, please just keep the shirt on. I know you got some cool tattoos, man, but like
send him to the Red Bulls.
Yeah, send him to Miami for all I care if that's what he's gonna do. But he's got some confidence built after getting that after a goal and an assist in a really important result for Tottenham. I want to have faith, and I think this game means more for Tottenham this season in the grand scheme of things than it does for Arsenal. Obviously, when you're talking about North London derby, it means everything for both teams. Like, it's huge. But I think this is because Tottenham, they're in 2 competitions now. Like, this might as well be a Champions League game for them. Like, and not that they aren't going to build this up anyways, but this is one of their 4 or 5 biggest games of the year. And I think that Ainge is going to have the guys ready. My one concern is that Perisic has been so vital off the bench, and losing him for an extended period of time is going to hurt in terms of having that creativity and the services he can provide into the box late in games, that threat he provides when some defenses get a little tired. And you might see that after a team played a midweek match, not one they struggled in very much, but so I'm going to believe in Spurs. I'm going to go 2-1.
Best of luck, buddy. I appreciate being here as always.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you all for listening, and we'll have to break this down, and we'll see if I'm crying on Monday night. So we'll see. But all right, guys, have a good one. Thank you, and we'll see you next episode.